And I think one of the biggest for us is the quality of the content that is now being created digitally with or without AI, and how transparent is that? How can we protect that? How can we make sure that this is credible?
Hello, welcome to the Test Community Network. I hope you're all safe and well. We've got an amazing lineup today with a presentation conversation with Amina Afif, who's a fellow conference ambassador for the IEA conference, which is taking place in Toronto in September. Amina is heavily involved in assessment organizations across Europe. She's representing the Western Europe side. We're going to talk about her experiences from her base in Luxembourg as she is now, or from Seychelles where she was before, just how the differences in the fact that money doesn't necessarily solve some of the problems that a lot of schools have when it comes to assessment data and being able to handle that. We also look broadly at some of the other implementations and experiences that Europe is seeing in terms of their use of technology, their use of data, use of techniques within schools-based assessment. So really, really good conversation to be had there. You'll see a tickle on the bottom, the latest news headlines going on from across the assessment sector. If you are listening on podcast, then you can always go to the Test Community Network website where you find the collection, you find all the articles, and there will be a link within the show notes as well to take it out. I want to draw your attention to this statement that was issued by the NCBE, National Conference for Bar Examiners. They've had some difficulties with the inaugural launch of their new next-gen bar examination. Now, legal-based bar examinations have been in the press quite a lot. There was the whole thing with California, some issues around delivery there, with a large settlement being paid out quite recently. With this one, looking at the kind of updated statement, it sounds as though there's been network and broadband specific issues at the sites where the examination's been taken. With in Washington, it says here approximately 700 applicants were scheduled to test, and some of those were affected. Now, I think what drew me to this really was that only the day before, as I was collecting the articles for this week, there was this article, "The bar exam is here," which means something is about to go horribly wrong. And the article there talks about some of the technical meltdowns they've had in the past with, not with the same vendor, with other vendors, but the whole host of different things which happen during the delivery. And it's a complex thing, delivering examinations and when technology is involved. And these guys will have planned for this. They will have anticipated there will have been some technical issues, and there always is, really, to be honest. I don't think you can go in there with any silver bullet. And I think this is why we need to be so honest with ourselves, that when you're delivering these things, that it ain't all going to be rosy, and that there will be problems along the way. And it's one of the things that gets me frustrated when people are saying that delivering mass examinations, all candidates sitting down at once, is going to be a successful thing, because it's the kind of thing that can ruin governments. And we've seen elsewhere in the world, India, their education minister resigned this week after the whole fiasco about the paper leaks that's been going on there. And you'll see in the collection there's lots more articles, including an article about that as well. Also talk about the kind of cheat industry that's there as well. So we have to be so cautious. We have to protect in terms of digital assessment, in terms of its adoption. There has to be a good reason for it. There has to be a good motive for it. It has to be done well for it to work. So I wish these guys luck with everything and sorting everything up they've got there. I'm sure everything will be back on track soon. Now, we have an interview now with Amina. I'm going to lead into this, and then I'll do some short announcements afterwards, including just a bit of an update on the MCQ leaderboard. If you're interested in that, that's the using large language models ranking for which one's the best for item generation. So here's me in conversation with Amina. Amina, welcome. Are you well?
Yes. Hi, Tim. Thank you. Yes, I'm very well. Thank you. Feeling well. Thank you for inviting me here.
No, it's great. It's great to have you on. I'm really excited to have this conversation. You're heavily involved in both the IEA conference. You're an ambassador like myself. You're looking after Western Europe. I'm looking after the UK. You're also heavily involved in Flit Plus as well, which is something that an organisation I've seen grow and flourish for many years now. And it'd be great to kind of touch on that a little bit as kind of your journey. But for anyone who doesn't know you and the work that you do you want to introduce yourself to the Test Community Network?
Of course. So I'm Amina Afif, and I was born in Seychelles. Grew up there, lived there for a while after my master's degree. Ever since, I've been based in Luxembourg. I'm a trained statistician, and I've done education research. And for around 20 years, I've worked with the Ministry of Education in Luxembourg, and 3 of those years in Seychelles. So the basic thing is to accompany school leaders to use data for improving schools. And during that period, I also had a lot of international collaboration with OECD, representing Luxembourg on the PISA governing board, for example, with IEA, with AEA Europe, where we presented or discussed in different international forums. So I have a little bit of a multi-profile, and you will see as we talk that my intersection is always between policymakers, school improvement, digital assessments, and leadership, because I always think that the assessment will produce data, which is extremely important, but that importance, that evidence makes sense when the school leaders can use them. So how does that translate into that? That's where I sit. And currently I'm in the flip, as you rightly mentioned. And so as executive secretary of FLIP, which has been here since 2019, we have 22 educational institutions across Europe and the world. And we are building an item library or a bank with items with trusted digital content on the platform. So as well, so there's a lot of assessment, there's a lot of the multi-profile touches, leadership, policymaking, assessment. Yeah. So maybe we can explore all those as we talk.
Yeah, I think this is what I find really quite fascinating, because a bit like myself, I like to dabble in different committees and organize. You're doing the same, but we're just in kind of different spaces. And I suppose this is probably the first time that we've had a kind of crossover with the IEA stuff. But so yeah, let's explore that a little bit more. But so being based in Luxembourg, being from Seychelles, what kind of trends or regional trends are you experiencing in your locations? What's kind of the big things that are happening for you in your kind of areas and domains?
Yeah, interestingly, Seychelles is very small, like any I want to say in the African continent, and then Luxembourg in Europe, and rich compared to Seychelles. And then we have the international institutions. But the gap that I always find is between assessment systems, especially in the developed countries, which become more and more sophisticated. And that gap between that and the capacity of those who are going to use the student assessment data, for example, but not only, but generally data, the capacity of these people to use these meaningfully, the gap between that is quite huge. So they're both important. I will say data has to be technically high quality, valid, fair. It has to be accessible for different people. We would have very good design systems, but if the teachers cannot interpret them, if the school leaders cannot use that evidence in a conversation, and if the reportings do not help learners understand, I think we are missing something very big. And this I see across my 20 years of working in Luxembourg and Seychelles. I have seen that schools have a large amount of data, but they don't have time. They don't have the confidence. They don't have the trust or shared understanding to turn that data into action. So I love looking at assessment, but I'm thinking how much energy could we also invest in ensuring that the educators understand and develop those two components together. That I see that we need transparency, we need capacity building, we need the human in the loop, especially now when AI comes into play. Yeah. So yeah. That's something that I find.
It's interesting. So you said about the kind of Luxembourg and the Seychelles, two kind of small kind of populations, small sizes, but one very much richer than the other. But yet, are you saying that we even with money, Luxembourg still has similar data processing challenges as the Seychelles?
Yeah, exactly. So money is one thing. I think it does help up to a certain threshold, but above that, I think we have the same issue of how are we using the data to improve schools. Especially today, we have students that we are preparing for jobs that do not exist today.
It's strange, isn't it?
And then we are here. We are using the data we have now with, I always say, with 20th century teachers, with 18th, 19th century, I would say, tools, and we're building that for students who are going to go to do jobs that we don't. AI was not there for you. We thought prompt engineering was a highly skilled job, and it's no longer that. So how are we using the data? What are we measuring in assessment? No matter how valid is it meaningful? Can we give meaning to that? Are we training the leaders to give meaning to that? That's the thing that I feel this technical quality and the meaning, the meaning we give to them cannot be competing priorities. They need both. That's what I'm saying.
So I've got 2 young boys, so one's 5 and one's 8, and I'm actually leaning a little bit more towards the idea that I don't necessarily want technology to be as prominent in my son's primary education, so that it's almost kind of that survival instinct of teaching you to be able to, not quite, but light a fire, grow food, do the things that you almost the skills that you need to do without the technology, so you can do some critical thinking. You kind of almost give them the survival skills of life as part of the primary school education before then, which I always think has been quite an unnecessary or a hugely misguided step that we have in terms of secondary education, because secondary is more about judging the schools than it is the students and turning them into this kind of machine-like robots that we put through either vocational or academic routes. So I want to invest. Do you see that that's do you agree? Do you think it should be that we spend more time on the fundamentals of education at those younger ages, or do you think we're missing a trick? Is there some kind of mix that you've seen that works well?
Yeah. Well, personally, if we look at Scandinavia now, they're going back Sweden, I think Norway as well. They're saying we don't want any more AI in schools, especially for the young ones, that I can understand. And then even for the older ones, we have to limit technology. At the same time, I'm thinking that we are preparing students to go in the world of work where the first thing they will be asked is to use technology. So when do we introduce it? I think it's going to be a balance, and I don't think it's the technology that is making that it's the way we use technology. It's the conditions around which we allow technology to be used. So do we allow them to communicate across the world with on Zoom, or have collaborative activities with students across the world? Do we just ban that? Or do we also give them time to spend together? Because that time cannot be replaced by, I don't think one replaces the other. I think it's a balance of that. And I think before we start blaming the students that they use 9 hours per day of technology, and we need to ask ourselves, us, the adults, how much time we spend on our technology. There are so many doors to enter that problem. They copy us. Your children will copy you. I have a 3-year-old at home. He's my grandson. And the other day I asked him, what is the name of this dinosaur? And you know what he's 3. He told me, let me go and ask mommy. She will check on the phone and she will tell you. He was 3. So he didn't think, he was like, straight, we'll go and ask.
It's a shock.
Check on the phone.
There's an amazing lady called Laura Knight she was talking here about social media. She was saying the social media itself, imagine it's like a plate. There's nothing wrong with the plate per se. It's the content, it's the food that you serve up on that plate and how you present it. And that is the issue, isn't it, with technology? There's nothing wrong with the technology. It's how we consume it and what we consume on it.
It's the smart use of technology, and I think it's the conditions and it's also helping the students to critically understand when to use it and when not to use it. And do you have an AI system or a model that teaches you that when you ask it a question, it teaches you rather than just give you the answer? So there are some schools that are building that. So I think it's the way we use it. Sometimes we're very fast on blaming the tool. And then instead of thinking what are the conditions that are necessary, do we have a sort of a playbook of how to best use that tool? We don't. We just use it, and then when it doesn't work, and then say, oh, the tool is not good. And this is where I struggle sometimes to say it's good or bad. It's the way we use it.
Yeah. So with the conference in Toronto, IEA conference, we're both going to be there. What kind of, what are you looking forward to? What kind of expertise are you looking forward to bringing to that conference? What are you looking forward to taking away? What's your kind of mission and goal around the conference?
So my biggest one is, especially because it's not in Europe, so normally we attend a lot of European conferences, and this one is out of Europe, and I know that a third of the participants also come from the low and middle income countries. So it'll be, for me, I'm so much looking forward to see how people connect that technical expertise and their strategies in their systems to improve schools, and how are they building the people. So I'm really looking forward to see how people are giving that importance to not only building the technology, but also how are they using it? Where's the human judgment, especially with AI? How are they creating public and professional trust? How are they using teachers and school leaders, training them to use that? And how they're all building these learners that we say that are going to come out there. So if we are now in 2026, in 20 years, where will those learners who are joining schools now, where will they be in 20 years? What are we doing today? So it's a lot of things. And I believe that technology can accelerate assessment, but the trust will determine whether people will use it smartly and whether they will believe in it, and how will students learn. And I also at the conference will be presenting a 45-minute session around Flip library, where we are building this data item bank. And the idea there is we have 22 public institutions from, I can say now, for example, those that come to mind: Italy, France, Norway, Lithuania, Brazil. We have a lot of institutions in England as well. We have ERC in Ireland. We have AQA. We have Morocco. We have CITO from Netherlands. We have a lot of them. They are all repeatedly solving similar assessment problems when they're building the platform and when they're building content. So what we want to do here is, how do we share 9 years on? I want to tell that story of what we have achieved, the challenges that we've had, because it's an international collaboration across cultures, across different items, built with different criteria. How are we doing that with our working groups? And the same questions around trust, around transparency, and around technology. So all these institutions separately having the same problems, and how does Flip bring them together, and what can we build together? So I will have a session on that as well. So I'm really looking forward to learn from the others and what we will be offering.
I'm really excited by it, because we were talking just before, and you were explaining about this ginormous item bank project, and I think it's a fascinating challenge. And I think what would be really quite interesting is to hear more about how you're organizing that, what your the kind of mission around that. So I'm really excited about that. I think from the conversations I've had with other organizations, there's almost a temptation sometimes that with these conferences, it's mainly vendors standing up talking about successes, isn't it? Because that's what they do. They talk about commercial success. Nobody ever talks about the failures. Do you think it's important to, particularly when you mentioned about the developing countries that are coming to the IEA conference, for them to hear the failures that from other organizations, so they can not make the same mistakes. Because there's a temptation, isn't there, that anyone looking at the UK system or wherever, the Luxembourg system, will go, well, that's obviously been a success because they've been up singing its praises and standing there and talking about how amazing it was. They're going to then follow those footsteps and fall into the same traps that they did, but they didn't necessarily talk about. So do you think it's important that we talk about the failures from our experiences?
Yeah, and that's been one of the trademarks of Flip, because people, when they come in our conferences, I remember even the last one we did in Vilnius last month, and there was this presenter who just arrived, and she said, I'm going to present my research on this AI tool that I'm using to see, to track the reporting of it. But I'm going to tell you right at the beginning, I failed.
Mm-hmm.
Said it in the first minute. And I'm going to talk to you why it failed, but why I'm continuing what I'm going to do. So in Flip, what we do, we said right from the beginning, the reason we founded Flip was not to make the same mistake.
Yeah.
So we said that even in 2017, when 4 of us sat together around a table. So Flip, because it's France, Luxembourg, Italy, and Portugal were 4 colleagues. And then we said, why not? We cannot make the same mistakes. Let's learn from each other. Then other countries came. But today we have countries who are very far ahead in digital assessment, using AI, creating items, who have experience in AI. And we have those that are just entering and have PDFs. So we don't want them to make the same mistakes that we did. And it's not only an item creation, it's going to be as well building your bank, implementation, success stories. How do we communicate? How do we report? How do we got to the press? How do we talk about the digital assessment? All those. So we share experiences and implementation. We share technology solution. We also share research information. So we share a lot of things. And if we were not able to share where we failed, I think failure is from where we grow. It's a platform. We fail fast and then we grow. So we allow people to come and see how they fail fast, and then we can all grow together. I think that's extremely, it's in life. When we fail, we just go forward. We just get up and go. I think if you fall and don't get up is when you fail. So I would say we fall and we pick up some nuggets that we share with everyone. Everybody gets up and we still go on. That's the way I think of it.
I agree. I completely agree. And I think one of the challenges is that, like I said, about the kind of almost the vendor-led conversations. I saw some research done recently on item generation, AI-based item generation, and the stats that come out with kind of obviously it's like 60% of the items are accepted and are of great quality. You might as well flip a coin. You're kind of close to that point where it's almost that 50-50 as to whether or not the item will get through that process, and nobody's talking about the problems they're causing further down the line because they're not. I think AQA summed it up brilliantly recently with plausibly surface plausibility. This is causing issues, and people aren't talking about that because they only want to sell the solutions that go with it. So, I think there should be more.
We're not competing. That's the difference in Flip. There's no competition. It's more like sharing. So we say sharing as one of our keywords is sharing. Yeah. So we share failures and success stories, and we also share strategies. We have one system, for example, that when they set up their call for tender, recruiting people to work on their platform, how they failed, how do you write a call for? They are very simple things, but they are the small mini steps that build the bigger picture. And you can talk about how do we write a call for tender? How do we implement? How can I come and visit you? We had Lithuania go to Brazil. We have Brazil come to Paris. We have everybody talking to each other. And it's come and see exactly where I'm succeeding and where I'm failing and look at implementation. You talk to teachers, you talk to policymakers, you talk to developers, and everybody's just showing you. And probably because it's public institutions, so we are not for profit. And so probably that part of vendor is not on the agenda for us. And automatically those who come and join us realize that, but we take it for granted that this is the way we roll in Flip. But it's true that people that come from another world, oh wow, they give away free information here. Yeah.
Maybe you should have an awards, best failure of the year award.
No, we good.
I think, to be honest, I don't think it's a bad idea, actually.
Idea.
Yeah, but so very quickly then, just to finish and talking about Toronto, what are you looking forward to most about being in Toronto? What's the thing that's exciting you
I
most?
think one of my biggest is really networking and also spreading what we're doing in Flip to all the other countries so that they can join us, because we've done what we've done with a few institutions, and we want people to own what is going to be produced. So if you join Flip, and that's one part of it, but it's also for Flip to learn from everybody else that is coming there. And I think one of the biggest for us is the quality of the content that is now being created digitally, with or without AI, and how transparent is that? How can we protect that? How can we make sure that this is credible? And of course, I will never forget the other part of how are we going to use the end result of those assessments, the data that is generated from that. How does it reach the classroom and improve learning? I think that is going to be one of my things as well.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to having that conversation with you in Toronto, just to explore that further, because I know it's a passion of you in terms of, making sure that schools, they have the data, and it's not just the assessment data, it's all the other data, but have the skills and have the leadership skills to interpret that and handle it. Because I think unfortunately, education's turning into some kind of business training school for head teachers, isn't it, rather than any kind of actual pedagogical structure, which is a concern, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think if we policymakers realize that, I think there's way to change, and that is why we need to talk about that, put that on the table as the agenda. How do you build your vision for your school? How do you build your team? And that's the leadership part. How do you use information, not only student assessment, but how do you use information to guide the implementation of your vision, your objectives? And how do you plan? And how do you plan not because you set a plan, but how do you plan in the middle of change? How can you switch with everything that we put on teachers? And then the policymakers think, how do we support? How do we put a support system around the educators? It's so easy to blame them. But are we supporting them? So yeah, I think that there is a big conversation to be had there. And I'm hoping the human-centered part takes just as big as a weight in conversations that assessment and digital assessments take.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I'm so looking forward to seeing you in Toronto later in September. Thank you for being a guest today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much.
Well, Tim, it was a pleasure to be here. Thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting you as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Where have I gone? Oh, this always happens. It just disappears. Failure. Just really interesting, isn't it? Talking about the fact that we don't talk about failure enough. And I think I think it was one of the EATP conferences, maybe 2-3 years ago. I think it was when I was chairing in London. I was calling out the fact that as an industry, we don't talk about failure enough. We just ignore the fact that things happen, problems happen, and they're going to continue to happen unless we are open and honest about what's happening. You look at the ticker on the bottom, I'd say 50% of the articles that are on there are talking about some form of I won't say disaster, but some kind of problem that's gone on, leaks or technical issues within the examinations or ongoing marking issues. Why is this happening? We've been doing this for a long time. We shouldn't be making these mistakes. Anyway, so the best the Failure of the Year award goes to right. I'm going to share with you now just very quickly. So this is the NCQ leaderboard, in case you haven't seen it. And the idea of this is that if we go to the front page, you can try and you can judge questions. So it's a comparative judgment tool. It's got here questions that have been generated, and you go through and you pick them. Now, what's interesting about why they've been generated? They've been generated using the open source and proprietary frontier models that are available through various whether it's through OpenRouter, whether it's direct API with some of the service providers. So you can see we've got Claude models, GPT from ChatGPT, OpenAI's. You've got DeepSeek, you've got Kimi K3, lots of talk about that one at the moment from Moonshot. You've got Quinn, some other kind of good ones. Got GPT-04. Anyone's still using that? We've got Minstrel, the French model. Sitting right down the bottom is Claude Fable. And I think this is where you've got to be quite careful in your model selection, because when these models are trained, they come out and they may be very good. There's been a big push on coding, and I'm sat on something at the moment which is quite interesting, and the breakthroughs that they're making in terms of coding are substantial, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the knowledge of the language and its ability to write and create multiple choice questions or any question content is perfect. Then it also changes the domain, the knowledge that's within it. So there's a lot of variation on this. So the idea of this is that you can create your own item. You can, if you log in, you can even pick and check. So if you're on a particular model and you want to test, so let's say for some reason, I don't know why, you're running Grok 3.4 and you want to check it against K3, you can create an item based on how you would create an item, whether you're a custom prompt or through my prompt kind of structure, and you can then make some comparisons. You can see how the items compare and see how they perform. So anyway, that is free for you to use. Please do. Members who it's free to become a member. Members can access the option to judge specific models. If you go through the other route, then you're going to generate models and you're going to generate against a random set of items that are created, or you can just try the test batch, which is available on the homepage there. Okay, right, that's it from me. I've gone really big there. I'm going to hide myself down a bit. You take care. I will see you. Now, maybe an episode coming out next couple of weeks. I'm planning on taking a bit of time during August, so there might be a couple of episodes coming up, but we're going to be back proper later on in September for some amazing conferences and amazing content as well. So I'll speak to you soon. If I don't speak to you then, see you and have a lovely holiday. Take care and bye-bye.